Good day. My name is Norm Balchunas, and I'm presently the director for the Cybersecurity Institute. Background, 25 years in the Air Force, flying B-52s, and then the majority of my operational experience then was also electronic warfare and cybersecurity operations. And with that, I've had a great opportunity to be able to come over to Drexel and be managing and directing the Applied Informatics Group, and presently in this position, then also standing up the Cybersecurity Institute. So it's a great pleasure today to be able to have a dialogue with you about cybersecurity and some specific impacts to you. Got a fairly short agenda today that I want to be able to talk about. Specifically, I want to talk about some specifics, perspectives that I think you should be taking in regards to cybersecurity. I'm going to give you a model to be able to take a look at and be able to rationalize some decisions that you'll be making in cybersecurity. Specifically, be thinking about the fact that you do have an online avatar. But then first, really what I want to leave you with then is the opportunities that you'll be able to take advantage of going forward over the next couple of years. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at some perspectives. And the perspectives I really want you to be taking a look at are, from a business model, your chief technology officer or your chief information officer and the type of decisions that they're having to make today, that of your adversary, and then also that of a stockholder. So we'll start with your chief technology officer. For most of us, when we thought about our chief technology officer, we've thought about, what have been their biggest concerns? And for most of them, their roles have been that of a consultant, an implementer for your architecture, your system development, web services, data access. Chances are very limited computer forensics. They've been your go-to person for network ops, for training all your personnel about existing technology. They've been your consultant for purchases and keeping track of your inventory. All in all, they very much have been a jack of all trades. And their job has been to keep your system running as efficiently as possible. And if there has been a problem, pretty typically, the process has been to advise the staff that there's been a security breach, and they update folks on the typical things: change your passwords, update your security status, but again, very limited computer forensics. Chances are, though, most attacks and many attacks will have gone unnoticed and absolutely not reported, because that has not been a part of the present culture. And we need to be changing that. The next perspective we want to take is that of our adversaries. Most of the discussions that have taken place when we've taken a look at cybersecurity and we've thought about a threat have been at the opposite ends of the spectrum. We've thought about the nation state actor who is sitting there with a lot of resources, and typically they're focused against another nation state. Or we've categorized that 19-year-old bored hacker who is just sitting around, nothing better to do, and this has been a mechanism for entertainment. And in both those cases, we've seen a lot of the attempts have been to disrupt or to embarrass either a business or a nation state. Well, today we really have to focus at the middle layer. The domestic insider, or that industrial espionage actor, and whose goal over the last 5 years has been to obtain critical information or disrupt for an ideological cause. Today it's all about profit. The difference really is the targeting mechanisms that they are now putting into place. Prior to this point, insider or espionage efforts were typically focused around obtaining critical information, and access would have been through the typical portal, like a phishing type entry. But now we're seeing them taking a much more sophisticated targeting approach and a much more sophisticated level of expertise. And they do have the resources now to be able to support coordinated attacks. The goal has become to undermine or impede critical aspects of an enterprise while minimizing their detection. And this attack vector has been through expert reconnaissance focused on specific high-value assets, and these typically have become supply and data flows. And this has been the real difference that we've seen with Target, Neiman Marcus, Sony, Sands Casino, Sears, University of Maryland. It hasn't been that phishing attack to gain access. It's been a very detailed reconnaissance of data entry points that have enabled almost unlimited access to critical information and thus resources. With Target, we saw over 40 million credit cards lifted and over 70 million personnel information records accessed, largely through a contractor link that had been enabled for servicing the heating and air conditioning systems. Neiman Marcus reported that their monitoring and their antivirus software was virtually useless, as they had been hacked into for several months before they were ever really aware of the loss that was taking place. When we start thinking about antivirus software, you really need to be thinking about it almost like a flu shot. You know, that's a prediction of past trends. And what we're seeing is only about 11% of businesses have adopted industry standard security measures. And even those best practices fall short of what is needed if we have an aggressive adversary who is doing a detailed reconnaissance of your options. And this is costing you money. The average cybercrime incident cost a typical company $11.5 million in 2012, and that was up 26% from 2011. Since then, we've seen that this has skyrocketed with these high-profile events, especially something like Target's. Reversing this trend is going to require expensive upgrades. Typically, we've thought of that in terms of introduction of end-to-end encryption, walling off sensitive data, adoption of new technologies for customer information, like credit card chips, like we've seen over in Europe for almost a decade now, that allow the consumer to be able to communicate directly with their bank and be able to maintain a higher level of security. Our third perspective is that of our stockholders. They really expect efficient use of resources, you know, and they expect there to be information sharing. They expect improvements in internal controls and in organizational improvements to do one thing: ensure a profit. And they are now clearly aware of the type of uncertain effects of cyber threats, and they're turning to you to be able to turn around and take decisive action. So now we need to start to address cybersecurity risk management to include new data controls and the introduction of regulatory compliance procedures that are really new to everyone. Thus, if you're a boss in this environment, your job in assessing cybersecurity risk and developing risk metrics is dramatically changing. The probability of loss versus cost, and then the process of identifying, controlling, and minimizing the impact of a cybersecurity event is changing dramatically. All of you are good at identifying, controlling, and minimizing the impact of uncertain events, but this one needs to be looked at much differently than an act of nature. You need to assume that there is someone that is trying to rob you and someone that is trying to embarrass you. And you need to be taking a look at each of your organizational objectives, you know, and be looking at them through a cybersecurity risk lens. And you need to make a decision. Is that cybersecurity risk acceptable? And then making that decision, how do you safeguard your most critical assets in this new digital economy? So I want to introduce a concept to you that I think will help you both personally and from a business perspective. And that's the concept of you having a personal avatar. And I'm using an analogy from the movie about 5 years ago, where an individual is able to turn around and is able to use another capability that has been developed for them to operate in another environment. And that's very much what we're all taking advantage of today in this digital economy. From a personal perspective, we all have an online persona. And that's in place whether we engage in social media or not. Think about your driving records. your education records, your health records, your dental records, your children's school attendance, your veterinarian, going ahead and securing a vacation rental for the summer, your church donation records. Every single time you purchase something, all your credit records, chances are your vehicle maintenance records, your gym membership, all these things are now coming together as online data that represent you. Now add in all the ubiquitous mobile devices and sensors, i.e. all of our phones that each one of us are always have within arm's reach with us. Now any additional social media, and we very much have an online persona, an avatar that is interacting for us. Now each of us really anticipate that that online avatar is interacting on our behalf. But we're wrong to make the assumption that it responds only to our commands. Last year, over 12.3 million Americans ended up being victims of identity fraud. And that's much worse than just identity theft. And it cost Americans cumulatively an annual cost of about $72.5 billion just last year. Now your business is very much the same. You maintain employee online healthcare programs, their financial records, you maintain employee performance records, all your inventories, all your customer contacts, trade secrets, all your databases, then throw in your social media, throw in your marketing as well. And now you have an online business persona, and it's probably the most crucial part of your business besides your trained employees. Now, how that avatar behaves in this digital economy dramatically influences both the nature of the employees that you have working for you, their decisions whether they'll continue to work for you, your competitors' leverage, and then with those, your future opportunities and success. The time to prepare really is now. You have to think about disciplining your avatar before an incident occurs. This is not an IT problem, but it really is an enterprise-wide challenge. You have to be thinking about your avatar. How does it think? How does it communicate? How is all this information about you and about your business being shared? And then you're going to have to make decisions with your data and with your customers. You have to think about your avatar having good cyber hygiene. How does it protect your trade secrets? How do you protect regulated data like HIPAA? Are you identifying and incorporating the best practices? Go back to the example of Target, and we're looking at third-party access that enabled a hacker to be able to get into their corporate network. Okay, well, all these people that have third-party access that you're outsourcing opportunities out to, what are they actually doing, and what have you actually given them access to? Here's a really difficult one in today's environment. Do you allow employees to bring their own device into the work environment? Then how are you securing their access and specifically the nature of the material that they're looking at each day and then across the different platforms, and how well integrated are they into your cybersecurity risk management plan for both your business and then also your personal records? Our avatars have to adopt smart design features. They're going to have to reduce access points. They have to balance convenience with security. They have to secure data with effective encryption. Our avatars are going to have to turn around and actually audit and test our systems. They're going to have to do some penetration testing, and they're going to have to alert you to weaknesses. If you are managing considerable cyber risk, you need to review your existing insurance policies to determine the extent that they cover cybersecurity risks. And if need, you're going to have to make some different investments in specific insurance to cover network breaches and data loss. The bottom line, in today's digital economy, you enhance your reputation and distinguish yourself from competitors by disciplining your avatar and guarding your customers' data. Now, startups are some of the Startups end up being amongst the greatest opportunities and also the worst risk, as they often neglect data security. Because for a young company, security is often at the bottom of the laundry list of things to do. You know, a startup has so many things to be able to focus on: acquiring customers, delivering the products, delivering the services, that security is not at the top of their mind. But perhaps it should be. As you bring new mobile services into the marketplace, they are particularly vulnerable. Tech entrepreneurs take possible security risks, most time as an accepted trade-off for building their product at a rapid pace. But we're all looking at a new breed of customers who are starting to demand security, and it's becoming a powerful marketing tool. If you don't take care of cybersecurity, that can garner a lot of negative publicity, which could be, really perilous to a new and emerging product. I think the point is made sufficiently that you have to take this personally as both a consumer and as a business leader. It's no longer something to just assume that IT has it. And we have crossed over the dollar barrier that the amount lost now really does justify the fact that you have to invest into this in order to be able to have better security. Suffice it to say, we really do have a digital economy right now, and you have an avatar that's interacting there for you. I want to switch gears here now and really talk what I think is the most critical aspect of this for you. There's a lot of great opportunities that are coming into the market now at this time. We are seeing the emergence of a really large, vibrant market for innovative technologies and companies that are leveraging cybersecurity. We're dealing with, really a decades-old and very antiquated payment system, that wasn't designed with cybersecurity in mind. So who's developing the next business models? Think about Bitcoin, and despite the recent Bitcoin thefts, digital currencies are going to become a reality. Who's building and backing the next online trading process? Who's developing the next generation of digital economic models and identifying best practices that focus on cybersecurity as a core foundation, not as an afterthought? Still not convinced? We're looking at technology trends like cloud computing and big data that have the potential of generating between 9.6 trillion and 21.6 trillion per year into our national economy. However, each year we're anticipating that cyber attacks are going to reduce that by over $3 trillion. That's a lot of opportunity for people to be able to come in there and bring forward new models, new technologies that will allow us to be able to achieve that level of revenue. And we're going to start to see the development of new economic incentives to encourage information sharing for cybersecurity to minimize that type of massive loss. Spending on cyber resilience is expected to rise from $69 billion this year to over $123 billion at the end of 2015, according to the World Economic Forum. Most major international companies have sensed this opportunity and are all pursuing cybersecurity technology acquisitions. As Plato said, necessity is the mother of invention. We're soon going to see penetration testing as a standard report that's going out to our stockholders, because we really have a much more savvy customer. All of our children have been raised on the fact that if you put it online, it's going to be there forever, and anybody's going to be able to turn around and access that information. They're coming into this as the new technologists, as the new developers, so they're very aware of this. And then more importantly, as a consumer, they're looking at you as you're providing a business model that you are going to be securing their privacy. Savvy individuals are only going to share what is needed and for a defined period of time. We're starting to see new technologies that will only allow information to be shared, for a very short period of time, maybe 15 minutes when you're going to your doctor's, or only be online for the specific instance. And each one of these are going to be tailored as we go along. Think of your kids in the way that they use Snapchat to be able to share pictures. We're soon going to see that across the spectrum for how data is shared. A really critical problem has been that simply we haven't had a shared vocabulary to be able to turn around and have this discussion. Well, that language is now being defined. Just last month, a shared framework that was provided by the National Institute for Standards and Technology came forward for how we should discuss a cybersecurity infrastructure. And very straightforward. How do we identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover? But each one of those are basic concepts that allow us to have a shared framework. And identify. How do we develop an organizational framework for managing risk to our systems, our assets, their data, and our capability? Is it your IT specialist that's going to do that, or is it you? Think of this as your avatar that's now operating for you personally and across your business enterprise. Protect. How do we develop and implement safeguards to ensure infrastructure services? This is really your avatar that's been fully armored up and is standing watch now for you over your system. Detect. How do we implement the appropriate activities in order to be able to identify an event taking place? For most of us, we're not even aware that our computer has been hacked into until we get a call from our bank. Meanwhile, chances are our computer is probably slowed down, not responding for us. There's a lot of indicators there that most of us just simply aren't taking the time to be able to detect that something has changed. This really is good cyber hygiene, and our avatar being fully alerted that something has changed within the system. Then with that, how do we respond? And that's implementing the appropriate activities to take action once a threat has been detected. That's your avatar in full response to an intrusion. Now, most of us are going to be hacked into. Most of us are going to be in business situations where people are trying to do reconnaissance and get into that system. So then we have to talk about recover. How do we implement activities to restore capabilities or services that were impaired? Now, incentives are now being released to have organizations voluntarily participate in how they share information. But our coming future is going to be dramatically different. And we're going to have to face different decisions and requirements here. Will you be exposed to liability as a business owner if you don't adopt an active shared framework? How will this framework incentivize adoption and make this more cost-effective for you? This is no longer just Washington, D.C. hype. Cybersecurity threats are the major threat to civilization. How we go about our day-to-day activities, how we share information, how we turn around and make purchases, how we turn around and stay in touch with our family and friends that are remote from us. And it's very much a threat to business as we currently know it. And these changes are happening faster than we currently can adapt. Firms and individuals that are going to be able to produce and implement the best solutions are really bound to win big in this new environment. Cybersecurity risk management needs to be one of your fundamental concerns in this digital economy. I really encourage you to be thinking about this online persona, your avatar, to be able to both protect you and to be able to gain a financial leg up on any of your competitors. Here at Drexel, we really look forward to our Cybersecurity Institute being able to make a major impact in how the university does business, and then the opportunities that we are providing as a collaboration environment for both education and research so that we all can operate much more